Hello everyone, my name is Amogog and welcome to Lokmanya. The pandemic has exposed the digital divide that exists in India, and when it comes to education, this digital divide has far-reaching consequences for our society and country. Today we have with us someone who is working to bridge this digital gap. Mr. Ramji Raghavan is the founder chairperson of Agastya Foundation, one of the most transformative and innovative education charities in India. Mr. Raghavan has been working in education for decades and is part of several educational boards, government councils, and committees. Mr. Raghavan, welcome to Lokmanya. So my first question to you is, the digital divide in India is huge. How has COVID-19 triggered NGOs, tech entrepreneurs to come up with innovative solutions to address it?
Yeah, so COVID-19 was a huge shock to the system. And there was a pivot to digital online learning. Now, that's the good news, okay, that people begin to put their minds and their resources behind this. The bad news is, in terms of internet infrastructure, the distribution and availability of cell phones to students, it's still extremely low in India. You know, they say maximum 30%, maybe just 20% of students would have access to the internet, to online digital learning. So what do you do for the remaining 80%? It's a huge challenge. That's the digital divide. I think there are a lot of NGOs who are looking at new ways of doing things, of reaching the message and the education to children, leveraging volunteers. There are people who've painted village walls. We read about case stories in Madhya Pradesh and Jharkhand and so on, with the equivalent of textbooks on the walls, distributing tablets and so on. Long term, the answer probably has to be internet has to be close to being free, internet access, right? Otherwise, we're still going to find a huge proportion of children without access to online digital learning. In Agastya, what we did was we said, look, we are strong in physical. Now, all of that has come to a halt. So we pivoted big time to digital online learning with a difference. We said we'll do the digital online learning, but give the children activities to do at home. So the home becomes a laboratory. The kitchen becomes a laboratory. So that way, what you do is you actually combine digital learning with physical learning at home, not in the school anymore, but at home, and create a very new, powerful model of blended learning. So this is one of the directions that people can, take to bridge this huge digital divide that exists for underprivileged children. There's the other challenge of training teachers to teach digital, right? Because it requires different skills. So all of that has to come into play.
Your latest initiative focuses on activity-based learning. Why is activity-based learning important, especially in rural India's context?
Cognitive scientists tell you that the human brain on average retains no more than 5% of a lecture in its long-term memory, 10% of what you read, 50% of what you see and hear, 70 to 80% of what you personally experience through activities and similar things, over 90% of what you teach to others. So activity-based learning is really important because it's experiential. It builds your psychomotor skills. It engages you. It absorbs you. It's fun in learning. It communicates what we call aha, ha, ha. Let me give you an example. You see this little top. It's called the tippy top. When you put it on a surface, it sits on its bottom because that's where its center of gravity is. Now you spin it on a table and it tips over and begins to spin on its stem. It's a very counterintuitive thing. When you see something like that, you go, because it's so unexpected.
Right.
And then you wonder why it happens. And then you begin to have a lot of fun playing with it. So it captures curiosity, creativity, and the sense of confidence and joy in learning that no lecture or no book can match. So activity-based learning is at the center of retaining knowledge, of enjoying what you read, or, the whole educational process. Why is it so important in rural India? Well, most children relate to activity-based learning, but particularly in rural India, I think they are perhaps less disposed than most children are to just reading and mugging up books and listening to lectures. They want to see some value in learning, how it connects to real life. And activity-based learning provides that important bridge. And that's why it's so important.
What is the outlook of NEP 2020 towards STEM education? How does your initiative align with it?
So I think the outlook is extremely positive. The reason is the fundamental difference that the new education policy has brought about in thinking at the policy level. We'll have to wait and see how things are implemented at the ground level. But at the fundamental policy level, the shift has been from what to think to how to think, from what to learn to how to learn, right? So for the last 50, 60 years, the education system at best has focused on what to think, just pouring content. I talked about the I talk, you listen model, the chalk and talk model, rote-based learning. So children really haven't come out of the system with thinking skills on how to question, how to observe, how to experiment, how to do things, create, innovate. So the education policy has shifted from rote-based learning to experiential learning, from just memorizing facts to actually relating knowledge to real-life situations. So there's a focus on curiosity, on creativity, on confidence. Building confidence is very important. If you're just spewing out knowledge that you received and you don't know how to apply it to a context in your work or wherever, you're going to lose confidence in yourself very quickly. Whereas if you know how to apply that knowledge, your confidence goes up. So confidence is very important. Innovation, all of this is critical. And STEM learning, it's not just STEM, even the arts, if you like, you can call it STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, all can be learned in a more integrated way. So rather than compartmentalizing subjects and saying this is physics and this is chemistry and biology, you look at a plant and learn about the physics, the chemistry and biology of the plant at the same time. So you begin to see how different streams of knowledge actually come together and how they integrate. And this sort of multidisciplinary learning is what is needed as we go ahead in the 21st century. And I think the NEP recognizes that and encourages that all the way. So very positive. In terms of Agastya, it's music to our ears because 21 years ago, we said the focus should be not on what to learn, but how to learn, not on what to think, but how to think. Curiosity, creativity, confidence, and caring. So we feel that we've been vindicated in a way, if you like, with the new national education policy. But we are open to working with state governments, and we've been doing that across the country in any format that they want us to work in, within this overall sort of philosophy that we have crafted for ourselves.
Right. So you spoke about mentoring. How important is mentoring in education? Tell us about your mentors. How have they shaped your life?
Yeah, so mentoring and role models are so important. You know, you ask any person who has done, achieved something or accomplished something in life, and they will point to a friend, a parent, or a teacher, or some role model. So it's so important, but we can't take it for granted. There are millions of children who don't have role models, right? So they need some sort of support, mentoring. Now, we came up with a program where we teach children to teach children. So what happens there is peer-to-peer mentoring. And peer-to-peer mentoring can be extremely powerful. Your mentor doesn't have to be a gray-haired old man like me. It can be a young, strapping girl with a nice smile, can be your mentor. So there are different types of mentors. In my own case, My father taught me the importance of thinking objectively about any situation. My mother taught me about the importance of connecting with people, the emotional thing, having a sense of affection for things. I went to Rishi Valley, where I was influenced greatly by the founder, Jiddu Krishnamurti. Although I didn't know him personally, I used to listen to his talks, read his books, and I learned about the importance of questioning, curiosity, the importance of precision of thinking. Came from there. When I started Agastya in my early 40s, Dr. P.K. Iyengar, the former chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission, introduced me to a whole new way of thinking about the scientific temperament. I'm not a scientist. I come from the field of economics and MBA. So this was a huge new revelation, and I learned so much from him. So it doesn't matter how old you are, you can learn. I've learned a lot from young kids who've made me think very differently. The rural kids that Agastya works with. Some of Agastya's most transformative programs originate through ideas that were thrown up by these kids, right? So that's a form of mentoring too. So it's a question of where you get your energy from. You can get it from a book, you can get it from a human being, you can get it from nature. So mentors don't have to be human beings alone. But it's very, very powerful because you need that stimulation to keep you going.
Right.
If I may, I'd like to show this.
Of course.
It's called ActiveLearn 1.0.
Right.
It's a new revolutionary activity-based learning book that costs just 60 rupees, and at least 5 children can use it.
Wow.
And our hope is there are about 50 million children in grades 6 to 8 who don't have access to the internet. And our hope is we can get ActiveLearn 1.0 to them. It involves a lot of activities that you do out of paper, and it's revolutionary.
Mr. Raghavan, your deep sector knowledge and your zeal for on-ground change is indeed remarkable. We hope that ActiveLearn reaches maximum number of students and that you and your team at Agastya Foundation keep coming up with such on-ground initiatives. Thank you for joining us today.